Namaste. Firstly, welcome to Akshara Vanam. We just wanted to understand the vision of Anadi Foundation and how Dharma Gurukula has started.
So very happy to be here today. And my husband Adinarayana and I started Anadi Foundation in 2015 to mainly inspire young people to lead a life of fulfillment, self-reliance and sustainability. If you look at the world, there are various kinds of poverty. There could be poverty of wealth. But another poverty is the poverty of inspiration. There are so many young people who go through the educational process, who work in companies, but they feel that they don't have the inspiration or motivation. Because one thing, they don't understand how this whole thing contributes to the society, or how is it meaningful, how what I'm doing today is helpful to somebody, that they are not able to find out. And in spite of going through the educational process for 20 odd years, they still feel that they lack the purpose. They need to look elsewhere to find this purpose. That is when we felt that we need to start Anadi Foundation so that we inspire the youth to discover themselves, to discover the larger purpose in life, so that they lead a life which is meaningful, purposeful, and they feel fulfilled in that. They are fully involved in their own lives. Otherwise, they are withdrawn now from their own lives. That's why we started Anadi Foundation. And we started the Gurukulam in 2021 because we looked at the educational process and we found that neither the teachers nor the students nor the parents nor the administrators are happy. How can a system run when all the stakeholders are unhappy? There's so much in our Indian tradition that we can look into that can solve the modern day problems. We have an ecological crisis going on. We have a health crisis going on. We have an economic crisis going on. We, in the sense, at the world level. So many countries are collapsing. But there's so much wealth in our own knowledge systems that can solve some of these problems by integrating what is called modern sciences and what is called Indian knowledge system. A lot of creative solutions can be brought out. But if we have to bring out those solutions, we need enough people trained in these knowledge systems who are interested in these knowledge systems. That is why we started Dharma Gurukulam, mainly focusing on what we call the Panchakoshiya Shiksha, Indian knowledge systems, combined with modern sciences through the open schooling curriculum.
Wonderful, ma'am. When we see India, India has seen many rich experiments in education. We saw Shantiniketan of Rabindranath Tagore, man-making education of Swami Vivekananda. We saw J.D. Krishnamurthy's Rishivali, integral education of Aurobindo, Gandhiji's Nayi But in spite of so much rich experiments in Indian education system, what do you think about the current mainstream education that we see today?
See, when we see the population of India is huge and diverse. So the mass education system or the main education system, it's serving a purpose in a way. Because one thing is we cannot create so many gurukulams or so many patashalas to include everybody. So that way it seems to be working to some extent. But what has happened is that because of the heavy level of standardization, right? So neither the top cream, in the sense really some genius students or somebody who is struggling to learn, both are left out of the process. So more or less it caters to an averaged out, it brings out an averaged out curriculum. It also gives an averaged out evaluation process and all that. But still it caters to the masses. Still a lot of people come out very inspired, they take up higher education and all that. So that way it is serving its purpose. But we should not stop there. So some of the experiments that have happened in the past and are still happening, there should be a mechanism created for these experiments to be recognized as well. See, why do you think those education models eventually also sort of faded away? Because the power of the mainstream is so very strong and many people recognize only that as a valid educational model, but there is not enough recognition and acknowledgement of these systems as well. So when there is a way from the top as well to recognize some of these systems, automatically more and more people will also adopt these, and some of these can be preserved as well. So when in the process of recognition, the same kind of a standardization cannot be used. So the people that you mentioned, be it Swami Vivekananda or Jiddu Krishnamurthy ji, or if you take Sri Aurobindo, they were all stalwarts. They had a wonderful vision of education. So the educational processes that have come out of such very high quality chitta should also be having its own evaluation parameters, and a broad framework should be created to accommodate these, not the rigid standardized frameworks.
If you see the 21st century today, what should be the vision and purpose of education?
The purpose of education, if you look at the Upanishads or if you look at the Bhagavad Gita for that matter, it is to do with realizing oneself. Without realizing oneself, one always feels unfulfilled. Right? When we say Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate, it means that whatever has come out of the complete is also complete. So we are already fulfilled, we are already complete in that way. But the moment we recognize that we are that complete, then we feel fulfilled, and then the kind of expression that we have towards our own life, the enthusiasm towards our own life is very different. But if the education, and if you look at the Upanishads or the Bhagavad Gita or whatever, it is all part of the education. It's not separate from education. So when all this is integrated into the educational process, I'm not saying you should integrate Bhagavad Gita alone into the education process. I'm saying that the thought process that one should realize oneself through, that can come through various, and the closest to the realizing oneself is through the Indian knowledge systems. If you look at modern mathematics or modern physics or geography or history for that matter, it takes you very, very far away from the self, because it encourages you to look at everything as a very separate entity. Right? You look at a leaf, you dissect the leaf, but you won't be able to understand life through that, because you're not putting everything together. So this unified vision, if it is given first and then the separate vision is inculcated, then it would be and again the unified vision should be brought out. Otherwise, people read all these things and wonder what is the purpose of reading all this when I don't know simple basic things. So the purpose of education should be, even if it looks like a very idealistic thing, what is realizing oneself? How will I even achieve it? By simply solving a math problem. That is not the way. Our rishis have shown the path, how to achieve that level by living in simple environments, having simple access to food and lifestyle, and spending a good amount of time on self-reflection, taking the time out for that self-reflection. By integrating these knowledge systems, then that knowing of the self can happen. Every child has the potential to do that. And if that purpose is kept at the mind, automatically all activities will align towards that purpose.
If you speak about a child, each child is unique and their interests are different, their learning capabilities are different, their concentration powers are different. So if you take a classroom scenario, multiple children with different concentration levels, learning abilities, they are clubbed together. And a single teacher being a facilitator, so there's a challenge in understanding it. So how do you think this can be addressed?
So that is why what I have seen is that if everything is concentrated in one place, then it becomes a challenge. For example, if you take a school for in current days, there are about 1,000, 2,000 children in the school. So a classroom automatically has about 40 to 60 children. But if a diversity of experiments are conducted in different places, then a group will actually have only 15 to 20 children, or even just 10 children for that matter. Then it becomes an easy thing to handle. Without that, what will happen? All of these people will be concentrated in one space. For example, people talk about special education, right? So many children have learning difficulties. Could be dyslexia, could be ADHD, or whatever the labels that are used in modern medicine. And then many of these people are concentrated in one place, that the educator finds it very difficult to handle 20 children who don't pay attention. Right? It's a very frustrating thing. But if there are multiple places available where these can be addressed, then a teacher probably has to handle only 3 or 4 at the time, can give more personal time towards it. But if I say, for example, that is there in the future, right now we have these children, how to handle. One thing practically we do at the Gurukulam is that we have vertical age groups. So we have a child who is 10 years of age and about 12 years of age, sort of in the same classes, depending on like which year they come to the Gurukulam. So what we do is that even if it is Bharatiya Ganita, a higher order complexity problem is given to a child which is capable of solving that. The same thought process but in a simpler form is given to a younger child. So they learn the same formula or the same sutra, but complex problem based on the sutra will be given to a 12-year-old child. A simpler problem is given to a 10-year-old child. And for children who are able to pay attention and other things, we don't address it directly through the classroom model. You cannot just say you pay attention, keep quiet. That's not going to work for long. For that moment, the child will be attentive, then again their attention is gone. So we actually address it through various other processes. For example, in the morning they have yoga sessions. There, these children are given more practices to suit that. There are dharana-based practices which ensure that the child develops good attention. We have a simple process called Agni Kriya, where they participate like a homam. They do chant the name of the rishi and then they do havan. While engaging with the Agni, there's so much attention and focus that is developed without them realizing they actually pay attention for a long time. So we have seen children who have very, very less attention capabilities. At least their parents used to tell us they can't pay attention. But they have come here within a couple of weeks. Actually, they have started paying good attention. So that way, it's not impossible to actually cater to all these attention levels and capability levels. But of course, for that, the educator should be a sadhaka
Yeah.
themselves, having a lot of patience, doing their own sadhana, developing a deeper understanding of the psychological processes. Then, when we understand that the limitations that we have are the ones playing in a different magnitude in the child,
Yeah.
then we become more compassionate towards the child.
And we are interested to know the journey also. From being a professor
Yeah.
to starting a Gurukulam.
So, as we were
What
discussing,
triggered, what actually
yeah,
triggered
as we were discussing that day, yes, today, my husband Adinarayana ji had a very deeply spiritual experience when he was in the US. So later on, he came to know that this was the experience of samadhi, because at that time it happened spontaneously. He did not have the exposure to knowledge system to understand it was the state of samadhi. He explored some Western psychology books, but that did not give any answer. But then when he delved deeper into the Yoga Sutra and the Bhagavad Gita, then he later on understood it's a state of samadhi, and he had an experience where what was outside of him and what was inside of him sort of merged, and it was a very deep experience. That is when he felt that in order to keep up that level of intensity, it's important to be in India. And also, whatever insight he has developed through his sadhana, it has to be offered to the society. And both of us were married, and then we were software engineers. We found that it's a very unidimensional environment. We were both in the software industry for some time, and then we felt that it's a very unidimensional environment. And we took up academics. We went to a university, we taught computer science. But whenever students used to come home, like Manjukesh himself has come home several times, they used to come back home with not with the computer science problems, but with life problems. That is when we felt that even a university education is limiting in a sense. So we started Anadi Foundation so that youth can be inspired. And basically anybody, whether it's a child or whether it's an adult or a young person or an old person, they should lead a fulfilled life. They should understand who they are and lead a fulfilled life. Towards that, we have created simple tools, a simple lifestyle, a simple diet, a set of practices, and many more, and oriented towards knowledge systems as well. So that way, everybody gets to understand deeper some of these processes. That is how we started Anadi Foundation.
and how has been your journey from being a student to a sadhaka right now?
So I was a software engineer at Bangalore. So I studied in Amrita University. So there I met Adiji and Smrithi ji. So being a software engineer, it was like only exploring one dimension of only the intellect was explored with. But then I was not fulfilled by what I studied or what the life has to offer. So then with the guidance of Adiji, I spent some time in sadhana at Anadi Foundation. Then I also got good fortune time to spend at the Himalayas for some time. So there, through sadhana, through Mauna, which Adiji has guided, so I came to know the purpose of life, the deeper, the purpose that I took up this instrument, this body. After exploring simple sciences like Ayurveda or other Indic sciences, I came to know how simple it is to just maintain this body, just maintain simple things, simple lifestyle. You know, when I was in Bangalore being a software engineer, I didn't have a clue that life could be such a simple thing. It's only about exploiting. Only if I have these resources, then only I would have a fulfilled life. All those conditionings were sort of shattered when I actually came to the reality that okay, what actually do I need? So knowing that this life is simple and a lot more can be contribute to this society. I started a Parampara Education Society in Hyderabad. under the guidance of gurus. So there I would like to take forward the Indian knowledge systems through different means, starting from preschool to higher education, in whatever ways I can. That gives a fulfilled life for all the children, all whoever comes to this kind of education system.
If any of the educators in Hyderabad or those associated with Vande Mataram Foundation and Akshara Vanam, if they want to get to more about the work there, and is there any facility for workshops?
Yeah, definitely. So next month, March 4th, we are planning to start a IKS hub there, wherein different Indic, wherein the space to explore different Indic sciences will be shown to understand what Indian knowledge system exactly is. So also they get chance to interact with me and like whoever teachers are there. They also come to know about the preschool, our concepts of Indic knowledge system.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. Anna. And as you mentioned, that rooted education, education which is rooted in our history, in our culture, that is needed, and more strength to all the wonderful work that is happening. Thank you so much. Thank you.